the Alien movies. I think their reputation could be best described as the first two are amazing, and the rest are just write-offs. Not only do I love the first two, but I'm just fascinated with this franchise as a whole. It's a perfect mix of sci-fi and horror in a way that really hasn't been done since. But with the Alien series seemingly in limbo as its new owner, the Mouse, decides what to do with it, I thought now was as good a time as any to sit down and review and rank every single Alien movie. I've seen the first two many times, and they're both excellent, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But I had never seen 3, Resurrection, or Prometheus, so this was quite a journey for me. But before I get into the body of the video, I do have a couple of caveats. Number 1, I have watched the special editions for Alien through Alien Resurrection. That means the director's cut for Alien, the director's cut for Aliens, the assembly cut for Alien 3, and the director's cut or special edition of Alien Resurrection. My thinking behind this is simple. If I'm going to review every Alien movie, I want to see everything that these directors intended for all of us to see. Number 2, I will not be covering anything from the comics or the books or video games, so no Alien Isolation, and that will be its own separate video. And I also will not be talking about Alien vs. Predator. I'm going to be saving that for its own standalone video. And number 3, spoiler warning, but I'm sure you already figured that out. So with all that said, let's go. Alien has a pretty sterling reputation. It's beloved as both a horror movie and a sci-fi movie. And its reputation has only gotten bigger and better 40 years after its release. Before I go into the actual movie, I want to give a bit of a spotlight to the series creators, Dan O'Bannon and Robert Shusett. O'Bannon came up with the rough idea of Alien when he thought of an idea of aliens attacking a B-17. He thought of this when he was going to USC. He would later add on to this by taking inspiration from other sci-fi movies at the time, specifically The Thing from Another World, the original one, and It, The Terror from Beyond Space, which many people say Alien is a big-budget remake of. When this movie was being developed, Ridley Scott was tacked on to direct literally after directing his first film, which was The Duelists. He had been directing short films since the mid-1960s, but it's pretty safe to say that Alien was his big break. But upon this rewatch, I noticed that the first Alien movie feels very isolated. And no, that's not a pun for the video game. I mean it in the sense that this movie was meant to be just completely standalone. With almost no grander continuity or lore to be added, it was just perfectly contained within a 2-hour package. Having no continuity would be a trend throughout the rest of the series, by the by. But because of that isolationism, the movie feels very standalone, both in the tone it sets and just how final everything feels. Ellen Ripley isn't even the first character that we see in the movie. It's Kane, played brilliantly by John Hurt, by the way. Ellen Ripley is not the last person alive, not just because she's earmarked to do so. It's because she just happens to be the last woman standing. The thing about the original Alien is that this movie is basically a haunted house, but in space. A haunted space mansion, if you want to call it that. But the thing about Alien is that, in terms of characterization and themes, it really does peak in the first movie. The themes that carry on throughout the rest of the series make their debut in this movie, such as androids feel that humans are pretty much just done for and that they're the next step, and that this xenomorph is not meant to be trifled with, and this thing has no conscience or any other desires than just to kill. The original Alien movie is one of those movies that I feel is nearly perfect from every single angle. The cinematography is absolutely amazing. This movie feels lived in, it feels very dirty. In other movies it's like, oh, spaceships, very nice and clean. But here it's like astronauts who sweat and get dirty, literally live in here for years in our time. And I also enjoy the camaraderie that is shown amongst Ripley, Kane, Dallas, and all of the other crew members. They're on a mission, yes, but they're basically truckers in space. Their literal mission is to take a lot of mineral ore from one planet back to Earth. So they talk like how one would imagine truckers would talk. The director's cut adds a few scenes that really do improve the movie. It's not a requirement to see the director's cut. You can get through the theatrical cut just fine. But the director's cut is like having Parmesan cheese on your pizza. It doesn't really add all that much, but it's a nice feeling knowing that it's there. The two scenes in the director's cut that I noticed right away was one extra scene in which you see the alien just dangling over the top of one of its potential victims. And it's one of those scenes where you don't see it immediately because the xenomorph blends in with the equipment in the ceiling. But when you do notice it, it's like, run. And the other scene is when Ripley is now officially the last woman standing. She's trying to get off the ship. She has set the ship to self-destruct. And she runs into Dallas, who was taken by the xenomorph and is either dying or is about to die. He's stuck in the wall in this like sap-looking thing, and he looks all contorted and stuff. And with one eye pointed towards her, he basically just tells Ripley, and Ripley, putting him out of his misery, just takes her flamethrower and just torches him. It's disturbing stuff. I could talk about this movie for days, but wow, this movie has just aged tremendously well. The iconic moments in the movie are still iconic, like the chest burster scene, and just literally every death in the movie just feeling like just the worst thing ever. The cast is firing on all cylinders, from Sigourney Weaver, who got her entire career basically because of this movie. John Hurt, may he rest in peace. Ian Holm, who is Ash, may he also rest in peace. He's one of the best parts of the movie. And just on the whole, the movie just feels really small, but in a charming way, if that makes any sense. And like I said earlier, everything in terms of thematics, characterization, and literally everything in between reached its peak with the original Alien, and no matter the quality of the rest of them, nothing would ever top it. Aliens, the sequel to Alien, took 8 whole years to finally get to screens. It's the reason why this is just, well, a lot of red tape, basically, involving studio heads being taken on and then leaving, basically saying, hey, this movie was a failure, despite the original Alien making about $200 million on a $9 million budget. But the thing that stuck out to me was that Aliens was supposed to be released in 1984, and it was supposed to be directed by James Cameron. Just to give a bit of a primer, James Cameron, that same year in 1984, directed a little movie called The Terminator. So we could have possibly seen Aliens directed by James Cameron, who had not directed The Terminator. That sounds very weird. But like I said in the Alien portion, Alien felt very self-isolated and contained. So when a sequel did happen, it kind of treats it like its own standalone thing. Like I said, the continuity, largely speaking, doesn't really matter. The movie opens 57 years after the first Alien, and by this point, Ripley is pretty much all by herself. She spent all that time in cryosleep, and any family or friends that she knows are either dying or about to die. She is truly alone in this universe. Pounding all of this, the Weyland-Yutani Corporation basically says, yeah, you know the Nostromo thing and the alien that destroyed the ship? Yeah, well, we're going to pin that on you because you destroyed the ship and that cost us money, so that's your fault. Ripley is naturally pissed at this and basically calls them out for the corporate D-bags that they are. However, the lone good one says, hey Ripley, by the way, we have a colony on the same planet that you went to and we lost contact, so we technically don't want your help, but if you could help us out, that'd be great. There are 2 types of people in this world. There are alien people and aliens people. I'm personally an alien person, but I will back an argument for Aliens, because rewatching this movie for the first time in a very long time, I forgot how awesome it was. In later interviews, James Cameron said when he saw the first Alien, he thought of it as a haunted house movie, and he wanted Aliens to be like a roller coaster. And yeah, that's exactly what this movie feels like. As soon as Ripley and the Colonial Marines get on LV-426, crap hits the fan real quick. And just by the title alone, Aliens, it immediately sends chills down your spine, because we all know what one of these things can do. Now we get to see what hundreds of them can do. And I think we all like to poke fun a little at James Cameron, because it seems like nowadays he likes to spend all his time at the bottom of the ocean and keeps saying that those danged Avatar sequels are coming, though all of us lost hope of those like a decade ago. When James Cameron is on, he is absolutely on fire. And that goes double for Aliens, because these Marines are pretty much hopeless, and all they have is like these massive weapons and their cunning, and that can only get them so far. Because you know how in the song The Man Comes Around by Johnny Cash, the opening line goes, "There's a man going round taking names"? Well, the alien is that man, and it's taken a lot of names. And rewatching this for the first time, I was just in awe as to how well composed this whole movie is. From just, like, every shot is just absolutely spectacular. All of the action is done very well. And the ending is just as satisfying as I remember it being. When Ellen Ripley steps up to the Queen Alien and says that line, just excellent every time. And similar to Alien, the rest of the cast in this is really good as well. But the standout of which is the main man, Bill Paxton, may he rest in peace. And at the end of the day, I feel like I am still an Alien person, but I consider Alien and Aliens to be 1 and 1A, because they're both excellent. Alien 3, or Alien to the Third Power as it is stylized, or Alien Cubed as I like to call it, is the point where most people see this franchise as going off of a cliff, never to return. I could see how this movie could be very difficult to make, because not only was Alien great, but Aliens was great as well. And there was a debate on whether aliens should exist at all. But honestly, the history of Alien 3 is honestly so layered and complicated that an entire movie could be made about it, like The Disaster Artist. But to try and sum it up into a couple of sentences, essentially Alien 3 had massive script problems and a ton of studio interference, to the point that the freshman director of this movie, David Fincher, almost never directed movies again. That's a scary thought. Fincher has since gone on to disavow this movie, and my feelings on the movie aside, I get it. I really do. And as far as the script goes, it was honestly a mess. To the point where a comic was released called Alien 3, the unpublished screenplay. However, the assembly cut, which I watched for this video, is said to fix a lot of the problems that were had. And even though I have not seen the original and the assembly cut is very long, I did find some enjoyment in Alien 3. I didn't think it was as terrible as people have made it out to be. It's not perfect, it has a lot of problems, but on the whole, it's by far and away not as bad as I've heard other people say it is. The one universal thing that everybody hates about this movie is that literally in the first scene, Newt and Hicks, Ripley's surrogate family, are killed by a facehugger. All while the opening credits are still going on. And normally I'm not the type of person to get on board of something, offensive just because other people tell me it's offensive. But now that I have seen it, yeah, I don't understand why they did this. But to me, it just felt like a complete step backwards. It was like, okay, Ripley has this family. She's got a surrogate daughter and a surrogate husband. This is nice. And I guess because it was like, okay, we gotta take things back to the original and throw her back into the crap again, that surrogate family has to be taken out. It just felt unnecessary. Outside of that, though, the biggest problem that I do have with the movie is the effects on the alien. When they're done practically by a person who knows what he's doing, aka Stan Winston, they're really good. But when it's CGI, oh Nelly, they look bad. Now, I get that this movie was made in 1992, so CGI wasn't exactly perfected by this point. Jurassic Park was next year. I totally get it. But that's still no excuse for how bad it looked, because it was just god-awful. And I felt like this movie was just trying to be dark for the sake of being dark. Like, for example, throughout the first third of the movie, Ripley forms a relationship with Charles Dance's character, and he gets killed off. Why was this done? I refuse to guess. I would argue just at least keep him around until the end, and just... It's such a weird choice. I felt like I've bashed this movie a lot, so why don't I hate it? Well, for a few reasons. Number one, the visuals in this movie are still really good in terms of cinematography. Fiorino 161 looks like just the worst place you could ever end up. There were more than a few disturbing scenes, unironically. Like, there's a scene in which, well, Ripley almost gets raped, and that was pretty skeezy. And when it's not in CGI, the xenomorph actually is treated like a big deal. And the kills in this are very gruesome. And at the end of the day, I understand why people would hate this movie, but I'm just not one of them. I think there was genuine effort put forth into it, maybe just out of pure will, because David Fincher knew this was dead on arrival and was just trying to make something out of nothing. But at the end of the day, I get the vitriol, I get why David Fincher doesn't like to talk about this movie ever, and it is definitely on the lower tier of the Alien movies. However, I'm one of those people that is like, just likes to shrug their shoulders and be like, at least they tried. However, any positivity is completely thrown out the window when talking about Alien Resurrection, and sweet Jesus, this movie is bad. It's not even a silly kind of bad, like the Wicker Man remake. No, this is just the worst. Like, it's god-awful. I could honestly talk about this movie just for hours. I just watched this the other day, and I'm still not over it. It's just god-awful. From the absolute cartoon-level deaths of not just some of the crew members, but of just some of the acting, specifically from Brad Dourif. But just some of the absolute dreck that is presented, and is asked to be taken seriously. It's just a facepalm moment. It really is. If I had to have a highlight, I would have to say Sigourney Weaver is trying, maybe because she produced this, but even still, just... Wow, this is so bad. Did I mention how bad Brad Dourif is? Because let me talk about it again, because Brad Dourif is just bad as this mad scientist. I guess I didn't know what to expect from Grima Wormtongue as a Dr. Frankenstein type of character, but just, oh my god, he is just hamming it up for all the world to see. And like I said, I could talk about this movie for hours, but you know what? I'm just going to end it here, because I don't want to talk about it anymore. It's the worst Alien movie ever made, and it's not even a contest. I can't even give it a, at least you tried, like I did with Alien 3. No, there was just no effort put forth into this. It's just the worst. Prometheus. Now, this is where things get a little interesting, because this was the dark horse of these movies for me. I remember fondly when this movie came out. It divided critics and it divided moviegoers. However, nowadays, there's largely a bit of vitriol for this movie. People saying, among other things, the scientists are just plain old dumb, to just how it muddles any form of continuity that there was. I never make assumptions when it comes to movies like this because I just simply want to see it for myself. And I did see it for myself. And honestly, I kind of understand why people wouldn't like this movie. However, in a weird roundabout way, I also kind of don't. Because this doesn't really feel like an Alien movie. It feels like Ridley Scott tried to make a sci-fi movie set in the Alien universe. And if that's the reason why you don't like it, then that's fine. I can totally get it. But as someone like me who had no idea what to expect, I walked out of this movie very satisfied. Firstly, I want to talk about the visuals because, wow, this movie is it's just beautiful. I watched this on the box set Blu-ray edition, and it is legit one of the nicest movies that I have ever watched on my new 4K player. It looks and sounds just absolutely extraordinary. Everything from pre-human Earth to the Isle of Skye, all the way up to LV-223. Every shot in this movie is just big, bold, and beautiful. Even the Prometheus, the spaceship itself, which doesn't really feel all that lived in like, say, the Nostromo, it looks really good as well. I also really enjoyed the cast. The cast in the movie is honestly pretty stacked. You got Noomi Rapace from the Swedish Girl with the Dragon Tattoo movies and Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows, Logan Marshall Green from a super underrated movie called Upgrade, Sean Harris, aka the best villain of any Mission Impossible movie. Charlize Theron is in there, she's great. Guy Pearce makes an appearance and he's good as well. But the absolute cherry on top of the sundae is Michael Fassbender as David. His entire character arc is what kept this movie going. There's a scene in the movie where one of the engineers asks Noomi Rapace's character, "So hey, what exactly are we looking for? Are we looking for new life?" And she's like, "No, we're accepting an invitation." I butchered that, yes, but the point I'm trying to get at is that line where she says it's an invitation, that made all the sense in the world to me. I think that's the point of this movie. This is an invitation for discussion and discourse. This is not like Alien, where it is to the bone a horror movie. This Prometheus is trying to say something. What that is, I think, is definitely up to your interpretation. I think this movie took a lot of big risks. A lot of them didn't pay off. However, out of all of the Alien movies after Alien and Aliens, this is my favorite. And I guess I should address the criticism of these scientists are really dumb. Well, I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt there because they're on a different planet. They don't exactly know what's going on. They have a clue, but they're just trying to figure all of this out as they go along. I think the Prometheus will get a better reputation as the years go on. I think even by 2012 standards, this movie has aged like a fine wine. I know that might be an unpopular opinion to some, so leave your opinion on Prometheus in the comments. I would love to hear what you all have to say about it. And then we have Alien Covenant, which most people seem to be kind of meh on, but there's a strong pocket of fans and a strong pocket of haters as well. Rewatching this for the first time since I saw it in the theaters, I respectfully have to say, I get it if you don't like it, but I honestly think this movie is pretty good. Even more than Prometheus, Alien Covenant basically tries to lead us into the original Alien in as good a fashion as possible. Many of the themes from the original Alien pop up in some form or fashion in Alien Covenant, especially involving the androids. Also, out of all of the Alien movies post-Aliens, this has the most genuinely scary moments out of any of them. Like, for example, when one of the soldiers bends down to look at something and some alien pollen goes into his nose and then comes out of his spine as a xenomorph. Crazy stuff. Or another scene where this couple is taking a shower together and a xenomorph appears and then just kills them through the shower. Again, gruesome stuff. Of course, with Ridley Scott behind the camera, the movie looks absolutely gorgeous, and just overall, the Covenant leans more into the Nostromo side of things, and that it looks like people actually live in this spaceship. My one hang-up with this movie is that I feel like because of the middling initial reception of Prometheus, Ridley Scott's like, okay, I gotta figure out how to tie this up into as neat of a bow as possible. And so just basically comes up with a thing where the pale people at the beginning of Prometheus are killed off by xenomorph. I know for some this was a nice thing, but for me, it just felt like a half measure. I wanted to see where that part of the story was going, and I don't think we ever will, sadly. Also, one more note before I go on to the ranking, Michael Fassbender is excellent in this movie also. And the ending of which he basically reveals in a very subtle way that, hey, I'm the wrong android, to where Catherine Waterston's character is just going into hypersleep. It's just masterful stuff. And then he puts some alien eggs in along with the other eggs, and then he closes out the movie with him listening to Wagner as he looks over all of the new toys he gets to play with, which is a full circle moment, as at the first moment of the movie, he is with Peter Wayland, the Guy Pearce character, and Guy Pearce's character basically says, hey, you're gonna outlive me. And that plants the idea in his head of, hey, these humans are not worth it and the androids are gonna take over. Which parlays perfectly into the original Alien. I will leave it off with this. Alien Covenant is not a perfect movie, but when it hits seriously hard. Whew, well that's all the Alien movies reviewed. Now it's time to rank these, and this is my subjective opinion. You all should have figured that out, but this is my subjective opinion. So here it is. Number 6, Alien Resurrection, the worst out of all of them by a significant margin. Number 5, Alien 3. Again, I get why people don't like it. It is definitely imperfect, but it has its moments that stood out to me in a good way. Number 4, Alien Covenant, the best Alien movie since Aliens. Number 3, and I'm shocked to say this, Prometheus. I think it makes a genuine attempt to try and ask serious questions. And again, I get why people don't like it, but I honestly love this movie. Number 2, Aliens, a crazy movie about one woman fighting off a horde of aliens. And number 1, Alien, the original. What's your ranking of the Alien movies? Leave that in the comments. I'd love to see what you all have to say about it. And that's it. That's all the Alien movies ranked and reviewed. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching, especially if you made it this far into the video. 2 Sundays from now is going to be February 14th, Valentine's Day. And I'd like to take a look at some movies that are romance movies. And so I looked far and wide, and I discovered these movies that I think fell a little under the radar when they came out. I haven't really heard all that much about them, but hopefully you all can point out to me what these movies are. Have any of you ever heard of the Twilight movies?